Hey guys, welcome back to Badass Podcasting and Sound. Do you podcast? Well, if you do, you want to be able to focus on your content, right? You want to be able to focus on producing, delivering, rather than the mechanics of editing and messing with audio. Even though I have fun with it, I love doing it, but you want to make it as optimized as possible. So I'm going to show you using templates today. And here's an example of a session I just did over the weekend where I did 3 separate podcasts. I keep it lean and clean. I just open a new project in Logic. In my case, I create as many audio tracks as I'm going to need, and I just blaze. I just record one after the other. When I'm done, though, there's a lot of editing that I have to do. And for that part, I have templates for fixing and mixing the podcast to get it ready. So what I would do is grab one of these tracks, copy it, and then I would go to the file menu and click new from template. Now, if you use Pro Tools or if you use Sonar, Cubase, Ableton Live, one of those, they're all going to have some similar functionality. They just may do it differently. So when I open a podcast template, I've got 2 created, one for Badass Agile. Let's use the Fuse Chamber one. The purpose of a template is to lay out all of the things that you need to do your work. So your everything from plugins to your channels, your tracks, your buses, settings, any, in this case, I've got audio for my opening theme, my closing theme, my intro pitch, and everything I need to line up audio and work quickly. In fact, my very first plugin, the first thing I'm going to do now is start editing my audio. So I have the plugin to debreath my audio ready to go, and I have the window ready to start morphing, clicking, cutting, pasting, slicing, and dicing my audio as well. So everything is right at my fingertips where I need it. And what I'll do is I'll go to this track, which has already been highlighted, called Source, and I'm going to dump the audio I just copied into this new project. Beautiful. Notice I've even set it up so it's the only thing on. Everything else is muted, so I'm ready to start working. And one thing I forgot to do, though, maybe, is to set it up so that I command click and use the fade tool. So as I'm going through and editing audio here, I may find little breaths or mistakes, and I select it, and then I delete it. But when I've done that, sometimes I need to use the fade tool to smooth out that transition. So this should be set up as part of my template, right? Likewise, so here's the fade tool. This is the one that I need. If I don't set it up as part of my template, every time I come in, I got to go and make that change. I got to click here. Likewise, I switch over to my mix window and I realize, it's kind of busy. I got a lot going on here. What I really want to do is get rid of some of this extraneous junk that I don't need to see. So I'll go into the View menu, click Configure Channel Strip Components, and in my case, I can start killing some of this stuff that I don't need, right? So this I don't want. You see how this is making much smaller, more clean my workflow. But I'd have to come in and do that every single time I go to open up a new project. I don't want that. So let's close this and let's actually open the template itself. So let's go open, and I'll grab that Fuse Chamber template and we'll crack it open. Once it's open, I can go in and say, all right, I want to set up this fade tool as my default command click so that when I click command anytime I'm in the editing window, it automatically knows to use the fade tool. And then I can set up my mixer view so that it's not quite so busy. Let's go in, configure channel strip, and let's get rid of the things that we don't use. So this is much cleaner now. I like this a lot better. And we can go back to, I'll set it up so that it goes right back to, actually, you know what? While we're here, we can even go and get rid of some of the plugins I know I don't use anymore, take them out. And I know I use, for example, a limiter when I'm finished my workflow, so I'll go and add those right now. So we'll grab the precision limiter. And I know I also use the Novatron. That's my favorite compressor du jour. So we'll go and grab the Novatron and I'll put it right on one of my voice buses and it's ready to go. Okay, so I'll go back to the edit window the way I found it. And I'll highlight the source track. Oops, forgot something. We'll go and get the deep breath window back and ready to use. And that's perfect. I'll save my template and all the changes I've made to it. So the fade tool's here. I've set my mixer up the way I want. I've even changed some of my plugs and we'll save the template. Beautiful. Now, if I close this, and once again, go back to my recording sessions, grab the latest audio file, and then say I want to start a new project from a template. This time when it asked me for the fuse chamber template, you see everything set up for me. Fade tool's there. Let's check the mixer window. Yep, it's added the Novatron. It's added the limiter and removed all the other stuff. So we're good. This is exactly what I wanted. And my view is here too with all the extraneous stuff removed. So this template now works for my workflow. It's just the way I want it. Now, it's not just about settings and tracks and plugins. It's also about setting up any audio, for example, that you need to work with, like your intro music, so that it's perfect setup. You don't have to import it again. You don't have to configure it or align it again. I'll show you what that looks like. So let's import that track from my recording session. There it is. And now we're ready to start working. So let's assume that I've gone in, I've done all my deep breathing stuff, I've taken out any mistakes, and now that I've got this set up, if I need to add a fade, I can hit Command and my fades are all beautiful. Like everything is ready to go here. But when I'm done with all that, the next thing I'm going to have to do is start setting it up so that the intro music, the outro music, and everything is just perfect. So let's unmute all of these things for a minute. You'll be able to hear, let's actually mute this. You'll be able to hear that I've got my music set up so that it's just about perfect. So my fuse chamber theme kicks in, and then my intro copy kicks in somewhere in the middle, and then it flows seamlessly into my podcast audio. So I've got some old podcast audio from like a long time ago right here, and I use it as a reference. Just check it out. Have a listen to what the opening sounds like. You're listening to the Fuse Chamber Podcast, where you get the elite mindsets and skills to ignite your voice and build your audience. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I want to help you live the life you really want. Hey guys, greetings and welcome to the... All right, you got that? So, the cool thing about that is that all of my tracks are aligned and level set and volume. Everything is perfect. I don't want to have to redo that every single time I do a podcast. So here's what we would do instead. We would take the old podcast audio, and I left it there on purpose so that I can, once my new podcast audio has been completely edited and modified, I can just kind of move it and line it up. You see what I mean? Let's zoom in a little bit on that, so that my new audio starts exactly when the old audio started. And then I would just delete the old audio and slide the new audio into its place. Boom. Delete the old track because we don't need it anymore. So that source track was really just like a landing place for the new audio, so that I can slip it in to its proper location, so that now the new audio lines up perfectly with my theme song and my audio. Let's take a listen. You're listening to the Fuse Chamber Podcast, where you get the elite mindsets and skills to ignite your voice and build your audience. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and I want to help you live the life you really want. Being a team of one is extremely difficult. I never recommend. See here how the new audio is just good to go? It's ready, like it's all snapped in nicely with my lead in and my music. Now, the only thing I would have to do, because I never know how long my podcast is going to be, is take my outro music, and that I have to set up every time. But it really doesn't take long, and I've done it enough times now that I can kind of eyeball it and know what I'm doing. So let's just zoom this out for a minute so we can zoom it in rather. And I know that I like the audio to finish kind of like, I don't know, maybe let's try this. Let's have a listen. Coaching next week. So it's about 2-3 seconds behind where it should be. Come in for some more insight and coaching next week. Still a little behind. Come in for some more insight and coaching next week. That's almost perfect. I'll go one more, but that's exactly where I want it. Now all I have to do is just shorten the end of the audio file so that there's no gap at the end or no dead silence at the end of it. So let's just close that up a little bit. And now it's perfect. All I have to do, everything's lined up. My audio is good to go. The only thing I can do now or have to do now is mix my audio. So let's say this week's podcast recording was a little bass heavy or it was a little too quiet. I'd go and fix that, but let's go in and let's just start playing with it. So if you listen to my voice here, do it yourself. Learn the basics of the trade. Learn what's current and what's hip. And most importantly, learn what is no longer in style. Avoid that stuff. Now, don't write this off, guys. You can do this. And it pays huge dividends if you get it right. I used to go for coffee at the local bookstore on a Sunday night. Just go for an hour, grab the local magazine, flip. So I just do my little touching up and checking, and then I will go and open my meters, which I also have set up on the template, and just check and make sure my average levels are about right. Grab my limiter, and I'll show you how to use a limiter in a separate episode, but real quickly, flip through it. But if you're of a mind to, you can also go on Google and just search for top graphic design trends for, and then insert the year. And it'll tell you what's in, and it will usually show you really vivid examples. So now I've got it set up to almost where I want it, which means I'm able to do the final mixing of the podcast in a matter of minutes, not a matter of hours, because I'm not constantly re-importing, recalibrating, sliding around, and trying to align all the different moving parts. So this is how you use a template in this case in Logic, but for your podcasting, this can really save you a ton of time and let you focus on producing new and interesting content week in and week out with consistent results. So I hope you find this useful, and I hope you start using templates right away. Any questions or comments, please let me know. Take care, guys.